Welcome to Digging for Wisdom. I am your host, Joe Wadheka. Journey with me on this awesome, wonderful adventure as we find wisdom through deep dialogue. On this episode, I've got my good friend, Wilson Macharia, awesome thinker, political thinker, strategist, extraordinaire. We talked about so many interesting topics. The works of Ngũgĩ wa Thiong'o. We talked about the impact of imperialism, British imperialism in Kenya, and we also covered the recent finance bill that was passed in Parliament and the reactions that followed. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and you find some wisdom within it.
Okay.
And off we're running, episode 2, Digging for Wisdom. I've got my man, Willie Sarey, Mr. Wilson Macharia.
Yes, sir.
Bro,
yes,
you
sir.
have one of the most unique views on politics,
Well, thank you.
on strategy, and I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while.
I know. We've been talking about this for the longest. Like, it's been a couple years. Every time we meet, we're like, hey, you know what? We need to do this. We need to get things rolling, and we need to, shoot the breeze and see, and just see what we can talk about. We are planting seeds here. These are planting seeds of wisdom. Okay?
Yes, indeed. Digging for wisdom, planting seeds is the first stage.
Exactly. Once as you're getting your farm ready, you gotta dig. And then after you dig, you plant a seed. So
and then you water the seed.
Exactly, you water the seed,
and you watch the mighty oak grow.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we're doing. And I appreciate you, my brother Joe. I appreciate you for giving me this opportunity and considering me. To be guest number 2. I know. I feel. I can brag now. I can brag.
Hey, very to that. No, I'm the one. I'm the one who's thankful, man, because I really always enjoy conversations with you.
Me too.
It always leaves me. I live there thinking, man, wow, I had not looked at that situation that way.
Yeah.
Or I had not really considered the long term and the short term the way you look at it.
Yeah.
So, dude, today I've got like a whole list of topics that we'll go through. I want to talk to you about what's going on in Kenya.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about globalization.
Yes.
The reach of China into Africa, the US.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about this precious book that you let me borrow.
Decolonizing the Mind by Ngũgĩ wa Thiong'o. That's one of my big inspirations. He's a thinker, great writer. I'm a nerd like that. I bury myself in books. So anybody who's out there listening to this, Decolonizing the Mind by Ngũgĩ wa Thiong'o, great Kenyan writer. So, you need to kind of, look into it, read it, get that knowledge. They say knowledge is power.
Knowledge, man. This book, thank you so much for letting me borrow it, man. It packs so much.
Yes.
It's a tiny book that how many pages is this thing? Less than 100.
Yeah.
This thing is literally
very deep.
Yes, like 106 pages.
Mm-hmm.
But the wealth of wisdom that is in here.
Deep knowledge.
And I was like, man, have I been living under a rock? Because I never looked at the situation that way. And man, let's start from there.
Okay, we can actually, that is actually a very good starting point. Because for those who don't know, Ngũgĩ, what Ngũgĩ was talking about in decolonizing the mind, he was talking about a look at, because as Kenya was a British colony. So
until when did we get our independence? 1963.
63. Yeah, so 63, and becoming a republic. So 63, 64. But before that, we were, a British colony. As the sun could not set on the British Empire. So it was far-reaching and wide. So we were in the mix.
One of the subjects.
Yeah, we were one of the subjects. Among many. Yeah, subjects of Her Majesty the Queen.
Do our leaders still go there to kiss the ring, or is that something of the old age now?
No, You're getting into the weeds. Yes, they still do. They still go to that Chatham House. Yeah, yes, they still go there, and they gotta be like, okay, let me see what we can do. Here is what I have in store. Here is my thought process. So yeah, so we still got a long way, you know. So decolonizing the mind, to summarize, it's more about how you look at systems that are imposed, systems that were there before, because for most people have this, I don't know how to phrase it, this impression that we were just, we did not have any system, we were just, and then the British came, everything was
It's
dandy.
as if it was all chaos. And
Yeah,
then
it was all chaos and
perfect
no.
order arrived.
Yeah, that is far from the truth. So decolonizing the mind goes into, showing what systems we had, how we interacted with them, and how after we got independence, there was still a lot of work to do in how we look at things. Because remember, when the British came and colonized Kenya, their goal was not our interests; it was their interests.
First of all, their economic interests.
Their economic interests. So everything was centered around that. So the society that we inherited was not for us. It was, it was an extractive, economy. It was everything that was set up was to target, key areas that had potential, farmland, everything. Like it was not for us. It was to support the the colonial system that was imposed on us. So now what happens is that when you're in that system and it's not a normal system, because it overturned how we look at a lot of things, because traditionally we had a way of how we dealt with things like land, we had how we dealt with cultural things,
boundaries.
Even boundaries.
Man, because you said land, and I thought literally boundaries were just arbitrarily drawn, without any care of how we had drawn those lines.
Exactly. How we as communities interacted, how let's say the Kikuyu and Maasai interacted, that those things were just, literally they were just imposed on us in a way that, hey, you'll be pushed here and you'll be pushed here and you're like, it's not the normal way of how our society is. And so decolonizing the mind looks at all these things, and then it also looks at the cultural things. These are things that most of the time you may not, think about as important, but those are the things that kind of grow a people, how we approach, things like, our set books, our like mostly, like how we have to do certain courses in school. So those courses,
like the full curriculum, in essence,
yes,
from our whole education system, actually, why are we even limiting it to the curriculum?
The whole, And so what we were trying to do, or what he was trying to center, was like, we have to center the African, that we are African, so we have to center that. We have to put it as a base, as a foundation, because before that it was uprooted. We have to understand, hey, we are people with deep roots in a lot of, expressions, dances, how we, storytelling, all those things. Those are things that need to be like, approached and kind of looked at in a very big and major way. So
let me read you a quote here from the book.
Okay.
And then we can riff on it a little bit here, because this was one of the main ones that I was like, oh,
profound.
Lord, profound.
Okay.
The biggest weapon wielded and actually daily unleashed by imperialism against the collective defiance is a cultural bomb. So he introduces this idea of a cultural bomb.
Yes.
And he says the effect of a cultural bomb is to annihilate. Hey, English. You can see there. It's not my first language.
I know. Hey, we are multilingual, so it's multilingual. It's all right.
How do you pronounce that word? Annihilate?
Annihilate.
Hey, thank you here. The effect of a cultural bomb is to annihilate a people's belief in their names, in their language, in their environment, in their heritage of struggle, in their unity, in their capacities, and ultimately in themselves.
Yeah.
A cultural bomb.
Yes, exactly.
We think of atomic bombs as eliminating a people's body physically. Here he's talking about eliminating a people's culture.
Yeah.
And then one last quote here.
Okay.
Language, speaking on language, language as culture is a collective memory bank of a people's experience in history.
Yeah.
So what happens when an imperial power like Britain came
Yeah.
and dropped a cultural bomb?
Yeah, exactly. And that is just profound, because it really takes, you have to take a very wholesome look at the whole system of colonization, because with like it said, it's a cultural bomb. So it disintegrates everything. So
To the core.
So before you have to look at it, even our belief systems. We actually, if we are talking about even we had, as we are Kikuyu, me and you are Kikuyu, so we had Gikuyu and Mombi, so we had and we had Guy, which is our God, and so we had a monotheistic way of looking at things. So, but there are very many things within it that were kind of changed and carved so that they could fit the construct of imperial Western British interests. Because first of all, for it, you have to break it down and look at it from a very large. How do I put it? It's something that is just coming and just has to take that out, and then first, once it takes that out, before taking it, it has to like tell you that, hey, you know what those beliefs and thought processes that you had and that you have for millennia, they are wrong, they are
Invalid.
They are invalid. They are barbaric. They are they're just.
That's crazy because
Yeah.
then as the peoples inhabiting that land, you have
Yeah.
to, it's as if you have to fight your own experience
Yes.
of life. Because
Yes.
then if something new
Yeah.
comes and they say, no,
Yeah.
how you've been experiencing life
Yeah.
and living it peacefully
Yeah,
is wrong.
Exactly. And another thing that it does, it makes you just you're in a very different state of being. Because what it does, it comes in and like there are a lot of things that people don't look at, especially like with how we interacted with our environment. Like for example, the Kikuyu, we live in the Central Highlands.
Mount
in the
Kenya area.
Mount Kenya is so that is Mount Kenya. This is something you could visualize. That's what we said. Hey, that is the seat of Guy, and those are things that are within your context. So now, when we have things outside of our context being imposed on us, it robs us of that belonging. Because once you're being removed from that, then that's why people ended up looking at what we had, the systems that we had, as inferior. Because now you've been told, no. These things that are around you, these things that that ground you,
I literally was thinking that exact
these
word.
things that ground you,
Yes.
no, they do not represent you, but these things that are foreign, that they are from outward influences. Oh, those are the things that you need to revere. These are the things that you need to look at.
Ngũgĩ Thiong'o writes it and says the worship of the foreign.
Yes.
Of what is foreign.
Yes, exactly. And with looking especially at that is that, and that's what I'm talking about, looking at the base, because that is what kind of grows you. Like that is where from there, that's when you start. That's how it gives you an outlook of your community, an outlook of the people around you. So with that, you get to have an understanding and being of who you are as a person. But now if you break that, then you can be told, hey, you know what, this other shiny thing over there, where because you do not know, you kind of know, because we're talking about things that are oceans away. That is, those are the things that you need to aspire to, and that you are disconnected from things that are supposed to be wholesome, that things that that are you,
like literally your mental. I think he has something in there of your mental universe.
Yes.
If you want to look at it that way, is distorted.
Is this very distorted?
When you can't even connect to what is right in front of you.
Yes.
And now you're connecting very abstractly to very abstract concepts.
Yes.
And trying to sort of fit those. Oh, sorry, Ngũgĩ Thiong'o.
Yeah.
I did not mean to drop your book. You're connecting now to things that are not part of you.
Yes.
At the core, if you want to put it that way.
Yes, then that I like how you put it, because once you disconnect from you are in limbo, and when you are in limbo, like you are not up, you're not down, you're just there. That's the most when you're vulnerable, because if you're in limbo, you don't know whether to move left, right, and all this. But then somebody appears and you're like, no, you need to move this way. But now we have to question, why do I need to move this way? But we were not given that option, because it was either, hey, you follow this, or, consequences, like grave consequences are going to follow you. So, so you are forced into a system that does not acknowledge you, does not acknowledge that, hey, you know what, I revere these things, And I remember one time, I think we talked about this, and and I was like, so in the Kikuyu language, I told you there is Goma, which refers to in the original context, Goma refers to gods. Like, let's say if like there's a dust storm, that is Goma Siaka, like when the storm goes like that. So most of these things, they are things that are within us. They are things that are in our immediate environment, because we have to make sense of these things. But now in the translations, whenever people talk about that, people are like, "Oh, you're talking about the devil," So now when we're talking
lost
about
in translation.
So now when we're talking about decolonizing, we have to look at things like that, things like that are like, hey, you know what? We were talking about this. This is what we mean. This is a phenomenon that happens in our lives. This is something that is part of us.
It's to me it seems it's an act of bringing context back.
Yes.
Into defining things.
Yes.
Whereas I liked how you put it, like being in limbo is as if you're lacking context or an ordering principle. Like,
Yes.
what are you walking towards? What are you living your life as? What's the aim of everything that you're doing? When you remove that from our peoples, they're in limbo.
Yeah, exactly, and they do not have a defined way of going, or this is what I'm going to follow. This is what I'm going to look at. So when people are in that kind of state, they are very vulnerable. So whatever that is imposed is going to be very readily taken, because you've broken down, you've dropped the cultural bomb, you've broken down everything. So now you're like, somebody is empty. You got to fill it with something. So those are the things now that I used to building blocks.
Nature abhors a vacuum. You can any
exactly.
space must be filled.
Yes. So then you as you go along, you end up after all those years, like now with colonization, with neocolonization, and and things like that, you have to look at those things and interrogate them and be like, is this what we aspire to as a society? And things like that, they get people thinking. And once we start thinking from that point, which I like that you started from there, that is when you start. Because if you decolonize that, and then now you introduce systems that are back beneficially to us, that's when you start growing. You start feeling wholesome. Once we become wholesome, everything is productive. Things start flowing in a manner that is natural, because we are not as disconnected. Then we'll not engage in things like deforestation, Mount Kenya and all this. We're gonna be conserving more. We are going to look at our environment and look at our land. Our land is not gonna be hey, you know what? I got to plant, I don't know how many acres of tea, which tea is not gonna feed me.
Nope.
So now it starts getting. I need to be self-sustaining. So I have to be able to plant, my sukuma wiki, my kales, my potatoes, things that are going to be nourishing of me. Not things that are just meant for acquiring
for pure
capital.
profit.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this way, because we always like to go back and forth on this seesaw.
Okay.
What of the benefits? What of the benefits that I know it's a controversial question that such colonialism brought? if we had not had that experience,
Yeah.
would we be even able to compete in the current global economy as it is now? Because the current global economy, I mean, you have to be a nation that can,
Yeah.
you can import goods.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you can export. That'll be
exactly.
better.
Yeah.
But if we had never had the experience of
Yeah.
a foreign let me not say a foreign nation.
Yeah.
The empire at
Yeah,
that time,
colonial empire, yeah.
if the colonial empire had not, if the mothership had not
Yeah.
landed in our nation, we will not be where we are today.
Well, that's. I think in a way, if you look at it, and that's usually there's actually people who are of the camp that they say, oh, you know what, this was a good thing. This was a good thing that it happened, which is I don't know how I don't know how you can. Yes, you can make so now that I think that's what the question you're asking.
Yes.
Right.
Let me give you
Yeah.
one more quote from
Okay,
Ngũgĩ.
go ahead. Give me.
I want you to
give me
wrestle.
Ngũgĩ. Give me center.
Let me give you
Give me
a quote so that you can wrestle with this.
Yes. Okay.
As you're answering that very
All right.
intense question.
Okay, go ahead.
He says, it is the final triumph of a system of domination when the dominated start singing its virtues.
Amen. That is why I'm wrestling so much with this question. That's why I
Yes.
was, that question, as you can tell, my friend, I'm like, hey, I do not know how to interpret it, how to look at it, but because if as Ngũgĩ have so well put it, because that is the final triumph, is like, you see, people are starting to look at it and be like, yes, so this really was the shining city on a hill, like as they say.
The saving grace.
Yes, this was it. Oh, so yeah, this was, taking us all the way to the mountain, so, but with that being put, it's actually good to like look at it. If you look at it in how societies have prevailed, right? Have come up. There is a progression. We start with fire, then there is a wheel. But if you look at all these things happening, there is a natural way of them happening. So it's not that Almighty Empire made it possible. We still, in my opinion, we still would have been able to get to where we are, despite or in spite of colonization. And why do I say this? The reason I say this, and this is my thought process on this, is because if you look at the progression of societies and how people interact, the way we interacted with empire was a way. It was a rough, and it was in a way where we are not seen as being equals. We are subjects. They are overseer, however you want to put it, and then we are supposed to like follow in that. But we could still have been able to gain that. Yes, there is things that were introduced that ended up being of benefit, but that does not mean that, hey, if we subtract that, then we will just be just not progressing. Because human beings, we have that's one of our that's one of our qualities. We have this
tendency.
desire. That's how we have this desire of like bettering ourselves, being innovative, being creative, being expressive in different ways. So there is a way it would have developed.
So let me push back a bit.
Yes.
Let me push back a
Okay,
bit, because
okay, go ahead,
we'll make this conversation spicy
Okay.
for conversation's sake.
Okay.
As we're talking, obviously.
Yes.
We're digging for wisdom, right?
Yeah.
If you look at history,
Yes.
throughout history, there's always been,
Yeah.
well, let's say past.
Yes.
We are all coming from the caves.
Yes.
There's been a tendency,
Yes.
to borrow from your train of thought there,
Okay.
a tendency to have nation or states or groups
Yes.
of people organize themselves,
Yes.
and then there seems to be a hierarchy. You have your itty bitty states
Yes.
that don't have much power. You have your central medium states,
Yes.
and then you have your usually
Yeah.
one power,
Yes.
the empire that dominates.
Yes.
And there's always the empire that dominates, and then there is
Yeah.
the rising power.
Yeah.
So let's say in today's day,
Yeah.
the United States is the empire that
Yeah,
dominates. The
it
rising
is.
power is China.
Yes.
In Britain's time, Britain was the empire,
exactly.
and then I mean it was crazy that because that transition from the rising power and the empire transition of power is always there's war there.
Yes.
But for the last, I believe, 3 or 4 transitions, there was no war.
Yes.
So Britain was able to. Britain went down, America came up. In
Yeah.
essence, without,
Exactly, yeah.
Obviously, I'm using wide brush strokes to paint these these thought.
Yeah.
So if the natural progression is that there is nations
Yeah.
that have different power,
Yes.
and the natural progression of power is to
Is-
expand itself.
Yes.
How do you answer that question? Or what are your thoughts on that when you say now? Because I feel like with Kenya,
Yeah.
we're coming from maybe Kenya is a small state.
Yeah.
In
Yeah, we
this
are.
global power economy,
Yeah,
you gotta
yeah,
look at
we-
it that way.
we
It's a
are.
small state.
Yes.
So, how does a small state behave when the natural law of power is
Yes.
that there will always be that empire on top of you?
Yeah. Well,
Because my pushback came because you mentioned we still would have
yeah.
come up.
Yes.
But my view is that would we? Because if the natural thing is that the empire will arise
Yeah.
and the empire will push down,
Yeah.
hey, maybe we'll have come up and be the empire. But
Yeah. Hey.
hey, I'm not
don't know.
calling us out of the game,
Yeah,
man.
hey, exactly. We still we got innate ability, so yeah. Well, that's interesting outlook on things. I think for me, my main pushback comes not from that that we would not have developed or we would not have, yes, that's a natural progression. As you said, that's how, small states kind of grow. But if you look at it vis-a-vis, like, how us within the communities, like how we were able to, because we still had, our conflicts here and there. We still had our squabbles,
with other tribes. Yes.
And all that. But even with that, there was a natural order of things. There was a natural order of how those interactions are carried out.
But wouldn't you say even within that, the big tribes ruled the little tribes?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I know, it's a very uncomfortable area, but I want us to go there.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Yeah,
why else do we have a podcast if we can't go and explore
Exactly.
those
we
depths,
have to.
those places we're like, let's close that door and not
Yeah.
ask that question. No, let's open it and go in there.
I agree, and and I will go there. We will go there and look at it in that context. I agree that there's always will be always a power imbalance, but the thing that I often push back against is because with colonization it was the way it wholesomely disintegrated a lot of ways that those systems interacted. See, it made us interact in an unnatural way. So first of all, we are black people. We are Kenyans, we're black people, and then there are white people. There's already the system itself that has been written out. It has been spelled out that, hey, you know what? This is a dominant power coming to overcome a little power. But then if you look for us, if we are dominant power, Macharia dominant, they come and the Kikuyu, yes, there will be squabbles, but then it would end there. We would have our fights, the spoils of war would interact and move either ways. But then there will be a natural balance that would exist that does not disintegrate society.
So let me ask it this way then. Because as you were speaking, I was like, a thought came to my mind.
Okay.
And I was like, oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
If we
Let's hear
think
it.
of, now, I don't know how many years back I'm pulling
Yeah.
as far as history.
Okay.
Let's say the Assyrian Empire versus, because I think it was the Assyrian Empire, then when the Assyrian Empire went down, the Persian Empire came up.
Yeah.
This thought came through because I was like, what? Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Persian Empire, is one of the only few empires who is so praised in the Bible. One of the things that,
Yeah.
oh man, do you know that podcast, Dan Carlin, Hardcore History?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I've interacted
I'll
with
put
it.
that on your radar, bro.
Okay,
You,
okay.
you gotta
Yeah.
get on that Dan
Yeah.
Carlin Hardcore History.
okay.
So he has this extended series
Yeah.
on the rise and fall of the Persian Empire.
Okay. Yeah.
And one of the main things he mentions is the Persian Empire. What their approach
Yes.
was, because as if we agree, if we can agree on the foundational point
Yes.
that power expands and
Yes.
the bigger guy is gonna expand his power.
Exactly.
As the Persian Empire was expanding, they will give the little states the option of, hey, acknowledge us.
Yes.
Say we're the big bazoo in town.
Yes.
Give us our little tax, not a little, but
Yeah.
give us our taxes.
Yes.
But maintain your
yeah,
local
autonomy,
customs.
yeah.
Yes, maintain your autonomy.
Yes.
We'll put a provincial kind of leader over you.
Yes.
But we're not gonna come in and literally push your way of
Yes.
life down.
Yes.
So they'll say, well, you keep your gods, your
Yeah.
foreign gods
Yeah.
that you're worshiping, whatever.
Yes.
But just pay us the custom.
Yes.
The nations that will refuse,
Yes.
then
Yes.
it was the hammer that drops.
Yes.
Pow. So
Yes.
that's what happened when they encountered Greece.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the Greeks told them, you want our weapons?
Yeah.
Come and get them.
Yeah.
And that's the strategy was different. So
Okay.
to your point of the way imperialism was done by
Yeah.
the British,
Yes.
it went to an unnatural place.
Yes, yes.
By
I agree.
destroying the
Yes.
customs of the local
yes.
people.
So for me, my main, I think that's I think you hit the nail on the head. Because my main pushback is that disintegration, because that was a very important disintegration and it came from like many millennia, like thousands upon thousands of years of society growing, but then that was violently broken up and discarded. So my main issue with not wanting, I don't know if it's not wanting to look, it's not wanting to look, it's just having that aversion that, hey, you know what, we would not have been there. My thing is there would have been a natural way of us getting to where we are without having the imposition that was colonization. There is a way we would have still, been able to develop without having that kind of systems, because cultures, as things grow, like whenever new things come up, they tend to because as people are seeking trade and all this, they tend to interact, and there's an interaction that is usually sometimes it seamlessly flows, and there's an interaction that is often violent, breaks it up, and then pushes it in a different direction, which is what colonization did. It came in, it broke up whatever was existing and pushed it in a different direction that was meant to serve
the interests
of imperial powers.
I get the thought of, let me hear your thoughts on this then.
Yes.
Because let's move from the Western hemisphere and go east a bit.
Okay.
In the Chinese hemisphere of the
Yes.
world, which literally, that can be an accurate way of saying that,
Yes.
like for a while,
Yes.
China, now it's coming back up, but
Yes.
historically was
Yeah.
the Jupiter planet size-wise
Yes.
of that area.
Yes.
And I did a little bit of a semester at Beijing
Yes,
University.
I remember, yeah.
So I got my fair taste of Chinese history.
Of that, yeah.
And it was just interesting to learn
Yes.
about this because
Yes.
they had what they called the tributary system.
Okay.
So they realized they were the empire in that side of the world.
Yeah.
Literally, China translated to English is Zhongguo.
Yeah.
It means Middle Kingdom.
Ah, okay.
They
yes.
literally, from
Yes.
their way of looking at themselves, they were the
in
center of the
position,
world.
Yes.
Why bother going over there to the
Exactly.
edge? Like
Yes.
everybody else was viewed as like as a peripheral little nations, like little
Yes.
tributaries.
Yes.
Imagine like a main river, then
Yes.
tributaries.
Yeah.
So the way China will conduct their business
Yes.
was each of these little tributary states,
Yes.
in order to continue under the good guises of the empire will
Yes.
have to come and pay their respects.
Pay tribute.
Yeah, pay tribute.
Pretty much, yes.
Do the kowtowing, the whole respect. It was
Yes.
such a codified way of
Yes.
like the whole process,
Yes.
A to Z, of how those little countries, so Korea, Japan,
Yes.
Vietnam, all these little sub kingdoms, if you
Yes.
wanna call them.
Yes.
So it's crazy that in World War One, Japan, which used to be like a itty bitty sub sort of tributary,
Yeah.
was now coming and just raining hell on China.
Exactly, yes.
But they kept order in that realm for thousands of years because those
exactly, yeah.
dynasties lasted.
Exactly.
Not that there was
Yeah.
not internal conflict,
Yeah.
but the dynasties lasted and
Yeah.
the external kind of order was
Yeah.
kept. So would you say that that's the natural progression?
In my view, that it is a progression, and I think now in hindsight, if you are looking at it and looking at those two ways, which do you think would be because as you said, the way they interacted, there is that system where it's you are not being inverted and being made to be in the image of the other.
That's
you
true.
are still
You
left whole, but you still pay allegiance to whoever is the dominant power. And so that I think that in that way that would have at least made society be able to be more, I don't know,
Stable.
stable.
Or,
Yeah,
even the relationship can get
Yes.
to where it's like a little bit symbiotic.
Yes, exactly. And you see, because we humans, we still interact. So if you make that interaction into a very like hostile, a very unequal way of interacting, because every time we interact, especially with big empires, and and they look at things, oh, you are you are inferior in a way, you are not at par. That is always going to have that friction, and having that friction, there's if you have that acknowledgement, because in a way we would have still acknowledged that, hey, you know what, we know you guys are the dominant, but we still need to maintain parts of ourselves instead of like give up a whole of what we have been, and incorporate something else that is foreign, that is still, because that in my opinion is what keeps most of the things that are happening recurring, because there's still that point of we are still interacting with systems that they seem like we kind of understand them, but they are like not as familiar.
It's as if they're against our nature.
Yes.
So it's better. I'm gonna make a very funny
Yeah.
sounding statement.
Yeah.
So it's better to be an indentured servant than a slave. Because a slave, it's like your identity is ripped away from you.
Yes.
An indentured servant is like, okay,
Yeah.
man, I gotta pay my dues for
Yes.
7 years or
Yes.
however long to this guy, and then I gotta go on my merry way after. But you're still left whole, as in your dignity as a human being is not robbed away from you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, okay, we acknowledge in this time period,
Yeah.
man, maybe you're not up to par on,
Yes.
on your economic 1, 2, 3. Let us help you. You serve.
Yeah.
After amount of time, you go your merry way. But
Yeah.
a slave, it's like, let me beat the human dignity completely out of you.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you look at it in that kind of, because those are two, in a way, the indentured servant is kind of knows the relationship that is there, and acknowledges that kind of state. But then it's not a state that, because for a slave, it's that's it. That's your position. That's
Permanent, fixed.
That's how it is for you. But if you're looking at it from the indentured servant, like it's a period, it's just how things are, and you go through it, but you're still retaining a lot of I think what would say make you whole, like in our analogy of the whole situation. So
Your identity is still intact.
Yes.
Man, let's switch gears a bit.
Okay.
Dude, how did you get to study political science. I
Yeah.
never even asked you that.
Yeah.
Like, what interested you
Well-
so much or captivated you so
Yeah.
much in this field? Was it from childhood? You just had that inkling towards
yeah,
that? Or,
yeah.
yeah, what was it?
Well, I did legal studies. So I've always been fascinated with with the law and how things are interpreted in a legal sense.
Oh, so you did correction there. Legal studies,
I
not
did legal
political
studies,
science.
no political science.
Okay, I don't know why.
But
Maybe
yeah,
it's because we always
because
talking
we
some
always
politics.
yeah, exactly. But that's I did legal studies because it's something I was because I love the law, things that interact with the law, and I was like, this is an area that interests me. But to expound on your point of political science, when I was in high school in Kenya, like history was my favorite subject. Like I was like I could just bury myself in history, because for me history is usually like it's a blueprint in a way.
What do you
You
mean
know?
by that?
It's a blueprint in you can be able to, with looking at history, you can actually like it's like a crystal ball in a way.
Hey, what kind of spirituality are you introducing?
No,
I'm playing.
yeah, I know. I'm just saying if you have like mythical crystal ball where you're like, if you look at history, you look at history of what happened, and as they say, history repeats itself. So that statement of history repeats itself. So if you study history and you look at things, most things don't actually change. They just take a different form. So for me, history was so intriguing because every time like an issue would happen, I'll be like, I can see so many correlations of this issue to something that happened in this past time. So I'll go and I'll revisit that, and and it makes everything like so clear, you know. You make things, you see things in a very different context. Like because you looking at it, you're like, wait a minute, the way this is looking, it's looking like this. It's looking like what happened here, because most things they don't change a whole lot.
They just take a different.
They
They put on a different dress.
Exactly.
But it's the same.
Yeah, and so
same pattern.
And so history is like you're more Kenya. More Kenya is in the Kenyan school system. There is how you could use a more Kenya. More Kenya is like how like how over here you take a test and then they're like it's open book.
Yes.
So sometimes people would write that and it's not really open book. It's something you sneak in and all that. Like you can reference something. You're like, it's like a reference point.
I see.
Yeah, it's a reference point on a lot of things that do happen. So that's why maybe you thought, because more history was my favorite subject. So I
loved history too.
And then that's also another thing that me and my dad used to bond a lot on politics.
Really?
And yeah.
So would you say a lot of your political takes and
Yeah.
views stemmed from your dad?
Yeah.
Or was it a bonding of you held the opposite view and it was a...
No, it was actually interesting. Me and my dad, we used to talk politics, but because my dad, he's also very introspective. He's very introspective on how he would look at things. So he would not just, there's a way you can look at things and just see what is just on the top. But if you look at things in a deeper way, you're going to uncover like a whole lot more things. So we would have this, these conversations where I would have a point and I would just be like, hey, I'm seeing these things, devolve in this way. And we'll just be talking, and then he would introduce something. And he'd be like, I don't. You're looking at it wrong. You're missing the point here. You're not considering A, B, C, D. You're not considering. And then I would have to step back And I guess with him it was age. With age comes wisdom. And
Young
so
man, sit
it
down
was
and listen.
exactly. And so boisterous young man as I was, most of the time I'll be boisterous, be like, oh, I know how things are gonna go. I've been immersed in this, and then afterwards it would come to pass like he had said. It would come to, and I would just be like, oh my God, Dad, how did you see that? How did you just, and that kind of challenged me, to look at things not just as people say, learned folk kind of look at it,
Like
to,
just straight from the
yeah,
prescribed textbook kind of view.
yeah, you look at it in a wholesome way, you look at it from different point of views.
Man, that's really cool because before we started recording earlier, we were talking about how in Kenya,
Yeah.
the civil discourse,
Yes.
talking about politics is normal.
Yes.
People voice their view.
Exactly.
Versus here in the US, it's
Yeah.
taboo.
Yeah.
You just can't bring politics to
Yeah.
the Thanksgiving
Yeah.
table. So that's interesting that you're like there, case in point.
Exactly.
Literally.
Exactly. And this is one of the things that surprised me so much because, as you said, like I've always been very engaged and very interested in political discourse, how things things in societies, how things interact. In Kenya, like you'll just go, like I was telling you, you'll go to Jivanji and you'll have a full blown political discussions
Yep.
about a whole host of things. And you guys are going to, you're going to talk about things, and it's going to spark a lot of things in your mind, and you're like, I didn't even think of things that way. Wow, that is such a different, perspective. And you'll be open. You'll be like, we are not in, it's not like, oh, we have different camps. I'm of this camp, you're of this camp. Yes, people do have their different camps, and we are multi-party, democracy. So people have different, but we still are able to meet in like, these open places where we can openly like and just have this conversation, like, just kind of, and you'll be even in the matatus, you just go over there and you're having this conversation like, did you see this? And people talk about it and people are engaged. As I was saying, like, even, and it's so very clear to see that even Hillary Clinton,
Yes.
when she was in Kenya, she went to a hairdressing place, and she was like, wow, you Kenyans are really engaged. You're engaged in the discourse. You know what is happening, and it's not just within our neighborhood. It's outside of our neighborhood. In Africa, in different African countries, overseas, in the UK, in the US. So my transition was coming to the free world, quote unquote. I was like,
How
well,
free
this
are you?
this is very different because I'll see something and I'll be like, wow, this is what is happening? What did you guys see this? What's up with this? And I'll be met by a professor, and somebody will be like, oh no, you cannot have those discussions. You cannot engage other people. People are going to get offended. And I'm like, these are things like which affect you and me and people around. These are things that are happening. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of I think disengagement. I felt that people are more disengaged.
Disengaged out of wanting to be kind.
Yes.
Or not kind is not the right word.
Polite, yes.
Or what's the word? Nice.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of like, hey, we gotta be polite. When I see you, I gotta, give you that smile. You know the one I'm talking about. There is.
It goes like this.
Yes.
Now you see it. Now you don't.
Now you don't. Exactly. That's there is a lot of that happening where you're like that. Yes, I'm still going to flash that smile, but it doesn't feel as natural, Whereas when I could, I can talk, I can engage you in this issue, and when we engage each other, it's not we're engaging each other out of like, because now it's I feel like it's kind of degenerated to where if you engage somebody, it gets to a point like it's a fight against, it's
Yeah.
very deeply ingrained.
It's as if
you know?
you're attacking their identity.
Yes.
People can't have ideas and let those ideas fight.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. Which is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like, hey, what do you think about ABCD, minimum wage? What do you think about infrastructure? What do you think about those thorny thorny issues that are like that don't seem to you may have a different idea. You may have like, oh, we need to not impose more taxes. We need to have less. If those ideas are not expressed, and if we leave it to people who have an agenda, rather than people who are just open to looking at things in an open way, because now I feel like it's degenerated to the point that, whenever you mention any issue, you're like, oh, that's a left issue. That's a right issue.
Yes.
To where you're like,
Yes.
no, those are issues that affect everybody across the board. You know?
It seems to me it's as if the views have been cookie cuttered.
Yes.
If you are like, if you hold this kind of political leaning,
Yes.
you must align with these views.
It's the consequences of duopoly, like the duopoly system that is here.
Yes.
It's like it's either you're A or you're B. It's either you are this or you're that. It's either you align here or you align there. And generally, in general. Yeah. So
let me pick your mind from a strategist view, though.
All right.
Because those are the facts on the ground.
Yes.
But now from you, Mr. Strategy over here.
Yeah.
If you are let's say back in 2016,
Yes.
Steve Bannon.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, like or
Yeah.
not like what the guy did,
Yeah.
man, strategically
Yes.
strategically
Yes.
speaking,
Yeah.
though, ooh, that guy did wonders.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, strategically speaking, from
Yes.
that kind of view, that
Yeah.
seat, is it not always advantageous to just paint those issues black and white? If you agree with gun control,
Yeah.
you're on this side. If you agree with what's another hot
Yeah.
button issue,
Abortion.
immigration or abortion, you're
Yeah.
on this side.
Yeah.
How do you address that if coming from because also I know
Yeah.
you love just political
Yeah.
strategy.
Yes.
If you're trying to win a campaign,
Yes.
your job is not going to be let me
Yeah.
take the centrist. You want to
Exactly. Yeah. You have to get into these different camps. That's that's just the nature of how the beast, the system is. That's just how things are. But and actually, I'm glad that you mentioned like Steve Bannon and how he was able to strategize and look at things from that particular point of view, because and this was why there was that big disconnect. This is exactly what I was telling you about me and my dad. My dad, he saw those things that you would just, if me as somebody who is like reading the texts and looking at how things progress, I would read it in a different way. And he would look not just at the text, he would just look at the general outlook that people have.
the sentiment.
Sentiment, yes. So there is usually when we can look at things, we can look at things from intellectual, book based, point, and then you can just like the feel. What is the prevailing sentiment? What are the undercurrents that people know are there, but they are not paying any attention to. So as a strategist, you have to like tap into those things. So I think what most of them are able to do, they kind of feel those undercurrents. Those things that are there, they are always bubbling. And these things like they start little by little. You remember the Tea Party movement, and
Yes.
the fight about healthcare. So things like that, they usually show, and it's something you're just like, wow, how did this just spring up? So you look at things like that and how they spring up. That kind of shows you where the sentiment is. And when things like that, like, kind of energize people and get them, "Oof, this is something that, we are committed to."
You can galvanize. That's the
Yeah,
word. Whenever I hear galvanize, it's like
exactly.
I literally
Yeah,
fold my fist.
exactly.
We are galvanized behind
Yeah,
this
that's-
issue.
Whenever you see that happening, you just know that is what is the undercurrent. And there are people who are usually so quick to, when they read that, and then they just know, okay,
We flow with it.
We flow with it. So now, once you get a movement out of that kind of energy, it does. And then the thing about that movement is, like, there is a lot of forces energizing it. So it's a movement that
You
keeps.
don't really have to do much. It's like
Yes.
a surfer riding the wave.
Yes.
You literally just
Exactly.
you ride the
You
wave.
ride the wave, and with that time, whenever Trump ended up, he because of knowing how to read those waves, he just knew, you know what, you just cruise with it. You don't rock the boat. You don't veer to this side or veer to this other side. So you just ride in the wave. You're not being shaky. You're going with it. Guess what?
Just keep your balance.
You will go far with that. You will ride it all the way. Like,
Man.
and that if you're able to, like, read those type of sentiments and kind of move along with them, you're going to go you'll go far. So that's
I want to transport you now to
yes.
the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The big current wave happening in Kenya.
Yes. Hey,
First, give us just a quick summary
Yeah.
of the facts
Yeah.
of these finance bill,
Yeah.
because I want us to go through maybe like a little timeline, we
Yeah.
can call it. So let's hear the facts, and then we can see the reactions,
Yeah.
and then get further your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So first of all, and we should first of all, like, acknowledge, like, like, the people who lost their lives. There are people who, families, people are mourning. There are people who have been, so badly affected by these issues, because this is a very deep issue that that came upon Kenya. And so first of all, condolences to all the families and everybody who is going through this hard time.
Yes,
we are
yes, indeed.
we are fully with each and every one of them. And as we discuss these things, sometimes we may just look at them from just an issue thing, but then there's a personal level. It goes deep all the way.
The suffering is being experienced by real human beings. It's not just an issue.
Yeah, but for those who do not have, like, a context, so the issue that caused the uproar, was the Finance Act of 2024. So I think it's been a couple years, like, this has been bubbling up. There has been, I would say, no, with the Finance Act, what happened was that they were going, because we are in a lot of debt, and when we have to satisfy those debts, and so there are things that are imposed mostly by multinational institutions, because that's where we get our loans, IMF, World Bank. So that's why that is also part of the elephant in the room in all this. So that financial architecture that is there is what we have to look at. But the financer, so I'll just touch on the main thing. So it was going to raise taxes on a whole host of things, and generally the taxes were going to squarely, like, surgically, like, disintegrate the middle class. The middle class of which literally
middle class is always the one paying,
exactly,
carrying the burden.
Exactly. It was, but then even it was not even just the middle class. It was going to affect, because if you affect the middle class, like, you're breaking down the middle class and the poor. So it was going to impose VAT on bread. It was going to impose restrictions, taxes on cancer treatment. There was going to be motor vehicle taxes. it was a whole host of there's a lot there was an eco levy which yeah, it was going to impose like tax on even sanitary pads for women, and and you look at it and you start wondering what is, why are all these things like, which how we, because it has been proven time and time again that all of this is not something that is going to grow. You cannot grow your economy. You cannot grow by taxing yourself. You cannot tax yourself to prosperity.
You need produce.
You need to produce. You need to
increase
you need
the
to
GDP.
Exactly. You need to support support like industries. Baby industries. They need to have those supports, but due to our situations, we have to do all the structural adjustments so that we can be able to access all these loans.
So is it that our previous tax code was just very lax, and then now it seems like we're getting a very tightened up and extreme tax code in comparison to what we had before? Or is it that we're just bringing a whole new architecture to how we pay tax in Kenya?
No, it was not. It was not lax. Actually, the it's like, it was literally putting salt on a wound that has already, like, you've packed it already with salt, and it's already hurting, and you're packing more salt in it. So this was additional taxes on top of taxes that had been imposed. Now, most people don't have a problem with paying their fair share of taxes. Two things sure in this life, death and taxes. So most people know, okay, we have taxes, that is just part of how we function in society. But in Kenya you have a system where, yes, you're being hit with all these punitive taxes, but you look at it, the county hospitals and even the major hospitals don't have any medicines. We are having shortages of just doctors. We are having there are no beds. There's no there's just a minimum basic level of funding and care. Education, being disintegrated left, right. There's no funding there. There's no resources going there. So most of the time, people are usually okay with taxes if they see that, hey, you know what? I can see
the road. I can see the hospital.
I can see the road. The road. That has been. I can see it. It's been tarmac. It's going all the way to the market. I'm being able to access. I'm being able to access a hospital. I'm being able to access this different services. But what has happened was that there's that imposition of so many punitive taxes with nothing to show for it. There is really not, we do not see it. Why? Because guess what? There is a lot of mismanagement of funds, misappropriation. There is literally, like, the cancer that is part of our society, corruption, has festered like so much to the point that every little, everything goes towards it's budgeted corruption. That's where we've got to that place.
But let me, I'm glad you used that term. That is interesting. Budgeted corruption. Tony,
yes.
mutual friend. We always have this discussion with him.
Yes.
Is there a healthy level of corruption? In that maybe corruption can never be eradicated, but there can be a healthy level.
Yeah.
Where, okay, you'll eat, and we understand that there's eating, that eating has to occur, but the 90% is still being applied to
and
to where the funds actually need to go.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good idea if of thinking about it in that way,
But it sounds so wrong though. A healthy level.
No. It doesn't. No. I don't think it even sounds wrong.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I think even us, sometimes we put a whole lot of pressure on ourselves too much.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we should be.
Because it's not going
we
to go
should-
from like 100 level of corruption to
Exactly.
0.
What I'm saying, we should be innovative. We should be innovative, like the great empire you're in over here, the United States, and call it lobbying. okay?
Lobbying, yep.
Yeah. Call it- once we, this term, some of these terms, I think maybe it's the terms.
Oh, yeah. You just,
If we-
to your
we
thing
tweak-
of
we
history,
tweak, yeah.
you dress it up differently.
Yeah, we dress it up differently. Maybe we are gonna be like, okay, you know what? This is it's a little lobbying here and there. It's a little, maybe we can do that. But no, all jokes aside, all societies have corruption. Corruption, it's a part of, even there's this distorted view that some people have that, oh yeah, those are the corrupt countries and all this.
Nope.
My friend, yeah.
You just call it by a different name. You
Yeah,
call
this
it,
over here is
you
called
call it
lobbying.
Lobbying
Yeah.
and special interests.
Special, exactly. That's how yeah, special interest lobbying. Dressed. It's very well dressed. You look at it, you're like, that looks good. But now you hear corruption, you're like, hey, you start looking. No,
These
no.
backward countries.
Yeah. You're hitting the nail on the head right there.
Man.
But if you look at it from that point of view, it may sound nice from that perspective, but.
Did the bill have any positives? Because that's the other part that I feel like I have not, and obviously my research in this is not as in depth as yours.
Yeah.
In the full presentation of it, it doesn't seem like it's presented as if it had anything positive.
Yeah.
Did it have, or have you heard of anything positive or read anything positive that it?
No, like
I mean,
that-
obviously, to your regular citizen, a tax bill.
Yeah, but the like I'm saying, no, I have no. Maybe there's some provisions I haven't looked at, but from what I've looked at it, it was a disastrously punitive tax system being imposed.
I see.
Cause let's the elephant in the room is this the imposition of this tax is really from mostly the IMF and these lending bodies. The lending bodies, because they have to assure that they get their money back.
Mm-hmm. You can't default on the loan
exactly.
like Argentina and them.
Yes, that is very understandable. But what we are saying is that the way we have always approached these issues, the same World Bank and IMF and all these other multinational institutions, we are saying, okay, we can have whatever tax regime is there, but to a point, they do know whenever those funds get into the system, that they are not going down to where they are needed.
Oh, okay. So their location is still still the main problem.
There is a problem of where the money is being allocated. They know, and then the IMF tends to reward governments that do not end up like making sure that money goes to whatever allocations they are supposed to go to. So this has been going on for so long, and what we are saying is that, hey, you know what? These leaders who are budgeting this corruption, guess what? This money ends up in this offshore accounts and in all these places, which is clearly known. What people are saying is that, hey, why? And also the other thing that's why maybe this conversation is usually so opaque like this. There is no transparency. There is a very because we are not, and that's what even Kenyans are asking. Kenyans are saying, hey, you know what? Show me how every, this is, show me this is going here, this is going here. Because that accountability let me know that, hey, you know what? Yes, this may be imposed here and this may be imposed here, but it's going here and I can see a change here and there.
It's like we need blockchain. Because blockchain, the general ledger can never,
exactly,
you can never lie on the general ledger. Yeah. So let's hear now. Those are the general set of facts there. the reaction. If you can take us through the timeline.
Yeah.
Because someone listening to this might not
Might not know.
Yeah. What has been the initial reaction?
Yeah.
And then where we are today.
Yeah.
And today is June 29th that we're recording this.
Yeah. So I would say like, things started bubbling up like way before when people knew that this bill was being tabled. Like I say, Kenyans are usually pretty engaged. So people would just be talking about it and, in activist circles, in different circles, and people would be like, the finance bill that is coming is punitive to the max. It is going to destroy, industries. And literally everybody was raising the alarm. And when I mean everybody, manufacturers, people who are part of, of growing this, this industrial base that we are trying to grow. Manufacturers were coming out and saying, hey, this bill is not going to let me be able to produce here in Kenya. I'll have to move base. I'll have to move to Uganda, to Tanzania, so that I can at least survive. At least there needs to be protections for,
business,
for business and industry.
Yes.
And then on the other hand, the local Mwananchi is saying, man, these fuel levies that have been imposed, that have on top of other levies that have been imposed before. So this is on top. This has been crushing, and then now you're adding more. You're adding more on top of it. This is going to hurt us to the maximum. We are not going to be able. Then when it comes to the motor vehicle taxes, it was going to squarely, because they were trying to, like, let's say somebody has like a small Probox, this little cars that they would have to pay like like let's say about 20 I don't know how much, 20, 30, 40,000 in taxes on a per year basis. But then the absurdity of it is that somebody who has a 32 million Range Rover is still going to be paying the same amount. So
it was literally targeted toward a specific class in society.
So everybody, that's why I was saying this was affecting everybody in general, So people were just like, what are these guys doing? These guys are not even like, they're not hearing us. And so when people start bubbling, people are like, yo, hey guys, listen to us. This thing is going to, is going to punish us like hard. Cooking oil was even. These are like the day-to-day things that people just need to use just to hey, you're not. It's not even extravagance. These are just the very
your basic needs. In essence, your regular commodities.
Yes.
Yeah. So people took up to the streets.
Yeah.
Before even the bill was passed.
Yes. Before the bill was passed, people were already activists were already out and about in the streets. They were like, hey, what?
Let me ask. When you say activists, are there is it led? Like,
well,
because yes, from my knowledge, I'm not sure. Is there a direction? Like, are there leaders in the protest, so that if there's negotiation to be done, there will be, these are the people who are coming to the table to say, these are our negotiation points, 1, 2, 3. This is what we need met.
Well, that's actually the genius of this. So the movement itself was, for most issues, like there's usually some people who are very passionate, people who follow things day by day, and those people are engaged because these issues, whenever they come up, even other issues that come up, they are usually always engaged. But what ended up happening is that people caught on. People who are, yes, I'm interested, I think this might affect me. Yeah, this is a political, issue, but I'm not too interested. But even people who are like minimally, interested, especially the Gen Z, because this is a Gen Z led protest
initiative,
movement.
you can call it.
Yes. So they could get it real quick from, people are, posting TikTok, people are like, talking about it in, just in general discourse. And then it just morphed. Like people just were like, yo, this this thing is just punitive to the max. We have to reject this, because after, like, talking to legislators and MPs and all the stakeholders, as they're called, none of them are. It's two different camps. They didn't want to hear what the general Mwananchi is feeling or is talking about. So they were like, yeah, that's, we're just gonna, it's business as usual. But this was not business as usual, because the youth was like, this is not the way.
The youth seemed like to be the ones who are predominantly affected then.
Yes.
Or is it that, because I was talking to someone and they said, they don't have anything to lose.
Well,
they literally, there's no jobs, there's no, like, the future looks so bleak. So,
yeah,
like, I don't want to say burn it all down, but
I think, I think it's a combination of things. Yes, the youths, it's not that they are the most affected. It's because we are generally, like, everybody is going to be affected, but it's the fact that it's very punitive on just the normal ordinary Kenyan. It's also very punitive on just day-to-day things. It's also tone deaf of politicians who have always been very tone deaf and not listening to the young generation. And then on top of that, the young generation has seen this kind of way that our MPs and those people in elected positions, how they carry themselves. These are people who are driving 8, 9, Range Rovers,
a caravan.
A caravan of 8, 9 Range Rovers, which could actually be able to fund like 3, 4 hospitals. They can be able to stock this county level, offices. So they see that people living in that type of opulence, what else every day, the everyday person is struggling day to day just for the basics. And for our parents and older generations, they've gone through a place of where, hey, just let live. I'm just, this, we'll just have to, this is how things are. But the young generation, the good thing about the young people is they have that energy. They're like, why does it have to be this way? Because they see the contradictions very clear.
I see. I was going to ask also the role of social media.
Yeah.
Because maybe the older generation, their view was limited to that.
Yeah.
And the newspaper or the news they're reading.
Yeah.
But now the young people you are connected to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And you can see what's happening in Timbuktu or Bangladesh or whatever nation out there.
Yeah.
And you can have that as a point of comparison and say, hey, the situation here doesn't seem to be progressing towards something of better.
Yes. So Gen Z, they are the most tech savvy. They are very in tune with affairs of not just within Kenya. Like I said, there are things happening beyond our borders, and most of them saw what happened in Sri Lanka. They saw what happened in these other places.
Sri Lanka was the port.
Yeah, whenever they also went and stormed in, they also having. I think it was also I think it was a punish. It was a tax issue, but it was where they ended up like just taking out their president, and they occupied their parliament, and the people-led movement. So this is
grassroots to the core.
Yeah. So people have been, things like that, and then they look at, and then our situation is unique in that actually I don't know if I have those numbers, but I had some numbers on if you compare per capita, or we taking into account GDP figures, Kenyan parliamentarians are the highest paid, second highest paid. After Nigeria in the world.
What?
Members of parliament. Yes. So the people who are telling us that we need to live within our means are living so extravagant beyond belief.
Man.
You know, so there is that contradiction where you're like, what do you mean we need to tighten our belts?
And you
Where
know,
you're
what happened to servant leader lead by example there?
yeah.
Wow.
So you're like, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So you're like you're looking at this and you're like, why am I having to sacrifice all this? You know, why is my paycheck? My paycheck. So let's say a regular paycheck from 50,000. After taking out, so now they have a SHIF, NHIF, National Hospital Insurance Fund. So now they have a new one, which is a social
security kind of system.
Yeah, a different system. So you're paying the NHIF, and your pay and all this. So somebody who is getting paid like, let's say 50K, 50,000 Kenyan shillings. Their take home is coming to close to 20 something, 28 or however much it is, with all that being taxes. So
Man.
you are looking at that type of situation, and I don't know who wouldn't revolt and riot about that, because you're like, how do you expect me to, I have to support a family, I have to pay rent, I have to, take care of my, if I have kids, and if I have a family, I have to be able to at least have, at
Like
least a little
sustenance in essence.
Yes,
Man.
I have to be able to sustain myself. But with and as I was saying, that contradiction. On the other hand, you have MPs who are over here. You have a sitting allowance, entertainment allowance, all these other allowances. To add more salt to injury, you have allocations that are going to a billion Kenyan shillings going to renovate State House. You have some office of the wife of the president. You have the office of the vice. These are. I'm like, we did not elect these people. We elected this,
yes.
and then you have
direct leader.
Yes, you have this other offices. You have we have cabinet secretaries. Yes, you have CASs and all these other these positions that are just, some of them are not even actually, as per the constitution, they're not supposed to be, they're not actually legal. But these people are there. They're getting just ginormous salaries.
Man.
And we are talking about we are broke as a nation, and you need to tighten our belt. And that is why we don't have medicines in hospitals, and all these other issues. Our roads are crumbling. So people are looking at this and are like, hold up. Something is not, 1 plus 1 is not adding up.
The math is not adding
It's not
up.
mathing.
Do you think President Ruto is ever gonna be able to live off the title that people have put on him, Zacchaeus?
Man.
And is it Zakayo? Yeah, Zakayo
yeah.
in Swahili.
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Let me expand that question.
Okay, go ahead.
A bit.
Go ahead.
The quote or saying,
Yes.
heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yes.
That I take that with the weight of it.
Yeah.
Literally, you look at, let's just say examples of like US presidents. You look at their hair.
Yeah.
By the time they're done with 8 years,
Yeah,
man,
exactly.
their hair, their
It's-
face,
yeah.
that human being looks like they've
Yeah,
aged.
exactly. Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah.
Heavy was that crown.
Exactly.
Heavy.
Yeah.
So I always like to pull back and say, okay, man, if it's me in its shoes,
Yes.
the foreign debts
Yes.
need to be paid.
Yes.
If those obligations are not met,
Yeah.
the punishments might even be higher.
Yeah.
The only solution that I can see is either we default or we try and find a way here.
Yeah. Austerity.
Or, yeah. You have to, because let's say we give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
He got elected there as a nation, and I bet you too. He as a leader.
Yes.
You want your legacy to be you helped your people prosper.
Yes.
Not you just came and you sucked out the wealth and you kept it all for yourself.
Yeah.
So, coming from that view of humanizing
Yes.
the leader,
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Because I feel like, man, I told you about that statement
Yeah.
of, I had this on the All In podcast. I was listening to that, and it was interesting how the politics and the elections of the future will be decided by podcasts. I was like, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's an avenue where you can have discourse properly.
Exactly.
And extended.
Yes.
So I want to humanize the person.
Yes.
And say, heavy is that head that's wearing that crown.
Yeah.
As the decisions that he's making, yes, he must be coming from wherever he's coming from. But still, we acknowledge that it's heavy.
Yeah.
How do you gauge his reaction to the issue?
Okay.
Because I think now we've gotten a little timeline. There was a protest now. How do you gauge the reaction?
So, I agree with you that yes, we have to humanize. You know, you have to humanize the person, not just look at him as, you know, as somebody who's as Zakayo that has to, you know, he has to come down. So if we can do that.
Whoever marketed that one, though, coming back strategically.
Yeah, I know. It's
going to be a hard
that
sticker
one,
to lay
yeah,
down.
that
man.
one, yeah, it's gonna be hard, but you know, I would say it's tough. Why do I say it's tough? So yes, we have to look at it that way, but then looking at it that way is all well and good. But then we have to like face the issue at hand. The issue at hand is that we have a very punitive system that is on top, that is getting more punitive. And on the inverse part of it, this system that is very punitive is not providing results. It's not being experienced by the people on the ground. It is hurting the common mwananchi. If we look at it from that point, there's a way he should be addressing those concerns.
I see.
So it's not upon us to look upon. It's not upon us to do that. For us, we have told him our issues. We have
our
said
grievances.
Yes, our grievances. But so he has to look at that, and then in turn look towards us and decide how he wants to approach the issues. So, for example, whenever this protest, after the protest happened, he came out with a statement where he was also a tone deaf to statement. He did not acknowledge, the people who are who have been, affected, the families.
Because after the first day,
Yes.
what was it? 6?
Yeah, it was. Yes,
6 people died.
No, it was actually more than. When he was saying 6, that it was more than that. At that point, it was like about 20 plus people had already died, and then they made it, into a way that it's the people in the city and all this, and then we were like, okay, there were people who were dying in Rongai. It's not really in the central business district. There were people who are dying in Githurai. So, those people are just like expressing themselves. People. But then in the heavy hand of the police just wants to repress and with very harsh tactics, So we've seen like those abductions. So at the end of the day, he can very much come out and issue a directive that, hey, the CJ and the people the people in charge of the police, he can be like, you guys, there are abductions. Even now, there are abductions of people. People are just being grabbed off the street and thrown into, like random places. Like if you go on social media right now on X, everybody's like, has anybody seen so and so? So people are just being abducted, just thrown into jail. No, just arbitrary detentions. And so that is what we are experiencing. So, and that most of all these things, that heavy repression by the police no accountability, because most of these the police who are just shooting, like I was telling you before, there were police who are just shooting people on Al Jazeera, like people who are just protesting over there. The cop is just over there cocking his gun and shooting somebody. So that kind of impunity, that is something you call out immediately.
I see.
You are like, hey,
I see.
If we are a democracy in a way, or
that run with
that
rule of law is still a thing.
then those are things you condemn, in the harshest of ways, and then you the people who are under you, who are in your administration, you tell them, hey, this cannot be going on. You cannot do this. So the us humanizing part, we do it based on what actions we are seeing. So the people we see the actions of the heavy hand of the state, and everything comes back to the head. You're gonna be like, hey, this guy is the one who is not having an even hand, and he's not been conciliatory. Because even I said, even the first statement that he did,
the initial statement, I thought that was it was a little callous.
And now, since we are a non-NATO ally, I think that
that's another point I wanna hear.
I think the allies, the other allies, I think they gave him a call and they told him, sir, hey, you need to tone down, and you need to temper things, so because you cannot you need to acknowledge what the people So I don't know if the disconnect is the advisors around him or whoever is around him.
Because the second statement was way toned down with the concession and the recession of the bill.
Exactly.
So on the technical front, though, Parliament will now have to be. Oh, okay. Before we even start on Parliament being reconvened, does the president actually have the constitutional authority to do what he did? Of saying this bill is going to be, yes, Parliament has approved it, but I'm not going to sign it. And because the Constitution says, I believe it's in Section 15, that if it's not signed between a certain period of time, the bill
becomes law,
rolls into law.
So that's one of the things that I saw, and for the people who are kind of engaged, they looked at it and they're thinking that because there's a lot of foolery, tomfoolery, as they say, and trickery sometimes that is employed. But so far, I think with him withdrawing, because that withdrawing, it's still in a way it's a tussle we are having. It's a tussle of the common the engaged public and the state. So I'm not sure if, because they said after a couple, I don't know if it's after what days it becomes law.
Yes,
I don't think that is going to. I don't
something.
think that is, because even with all laws, the president's signature has to be on it for it to be.
But I thought in that statement, that in that constitutional whatever bit that is 15A or 15B, if he doesn't take action, because he has to reject it.
Yes.
So, but he has not rejected.
I know
he has not signed to reject it.
Yes, I know. He said that it's going. No, so we are going to go back to the drawing board. He's going to engage the youth and all. Pretty much, extending an olive branch. But people, most everybody now is they don't want to hear it. We want to reject it, and that is the prevailing sentiment. So going forward, I think this is something, I don't know how that is going to break down. I feel that that's kind of a wait and see. That is something that we'll have to kind of revisit and see what is going to happen. But I don't know if it's. I think as per now, the bill has been rejected by the people. But I agree, like you said. But it hasn't.
He has to be rejected by the president.
By the president.
Officially.
But,
then Parliament has to start from base.
Yes. Which is actually what people are saying. People are saying, hey, you know what? Scratch the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Start from base. Now let's have something that can looks like something that people can work with. Anyway, as of speaking right now, that is actually we actually like behind the eight ball, as they say. That the conversation now is Ruto must go.
Ruto
So
must
that is the conversation that is there. But as you know, these are developing things. So I don't know if you'll come to that. We'll see what it comes to. But as of now, it's still like we were saying. It's limbo. We are still in flux. So we'll see as the days goes by what is going to be the outcome.
Man, we'll try to get this podcast out quick.
I know,
because by the time this is airing, it might be
know.
that the situation on the ground is completely different.
Yes.
But man, we're praying with Kenya.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
It's a tough situation.
It is.
Nonetheless.
Yes.
For the people that have lost.
I know. People have lost lives. Yeah.
Yes, I mean property as well.
Yeah, property. Yeah,
I
know. There are people, and then there's still people. As I was saying, there are people who have been abducted. Mm-hmm. There are people who are still, being abducted, and people do not know where they are. They have been, nobody really knows. So it's still, but the good thing that this has brought to the fore is like the systems that are in place, the Law Society of Kenya and, all these institutions, they've come out strongly on the side, on the side of the people. They're fighting to get people out. And so, we are praying that, everything just gets, resolved.
But we say the conversation began with the bill itself.
Yes.
The tightening is coming from our lenders.
Yes.
And this is one area that I wanted to kind of pick your mind on.
Yes.
Africa as in general has been leaning more east now rather than west.
Yes.
And in my time in Beijing there, I took a course that was specifically focused on China's foreign policy relation to African nations.
Yes.
And I remember this vividly because we had to we had to pick a topic and present every class every week, and then the teacher will come in and then they'll give their spiel.
Yeah.
And this was at Beijing University.
Yes.
And one of the topics that I chose to present on was African agency.
Yes.
So, what say do African nations have to this rising empire? If we can call it that.
Yeah.
And the presentation from the teacher came more from the view of, hey, no, at the end of the day, African nations have, if they lean east, if they lean more towards China, they have more agency. They can decide their fate.
Yeah.
There was a more humanized version. Like the leaders are respected here. We hear their voice.
Yeah.
Do you echo that sentiment, or is that, or did I go to China and I got taught something that is only beneficial to them?
No, I think that it's a more humanistic approach. It's a more, because, and I'm pretty sure you caught on to that. The Chinese culture is a very respectful. It's a culture that is able to like, it comes to you in a way that, hey, if we are supposed to be beneficial to each other.
Yes, and that killing you doesn't benefit me, because then you're not if I'm still the Jupiter in your universe, you're not serving me by being away.
And the interaction, especially with the East, is also that of that exchange. It's an exchange of where, you have this need, I have this need, let me satisfy this need, and you can satisfy this need.
But is it a case of better the devil we know versus the one we don't know? Because we have been dealing with the West for the last more than 100 years.
Yeah.
This image of China we have is still fresh.
Yes.
Because now is when, China, she's really extending her wings.
Yeah.
So is it better we stay with the IMF that we know than the Chinese bank? They have an Asia infrastructure bank that they're forming up now. What's your take?
The Shanghai Cooperation. I know that they're lending agencies.
The lending agency.
Let's call them that. Well, in my view, I think that like you said, it might be that, but then there is a very key difference in the approaches of the two systems, which is why most of our leaders have turned east. Is the West has the West, on the way it deals with their loans and their conditions, is different than when you go east and the conditions that they have. So, for example, if you are getting money from the West, there are these conditions that are set.
Oh, the stipulations are
There's
very, very
stipulations,
exact.
and guess what? As we have been talking about this finance bill, those stipulations that are set are what is directly causing the chaos and in the streets. Because on the other hand, for them, they are looking at it. Yes, we have to get a pound of flesh. We have to be paid our creditors and all that. And then in the East, you have a system where, and also just to add, with the West, they have this where they impose.
Oh, yeah.
Impose other conditionalities, which you're like, why
These are
yeah,
human rights benefits.
rights issues, and you have all this. You need to address this for you to get this. I agree. There is a place where you can say that this needs to be addressed, but then there is a disconnect on when that is imposed as a conditionality, and without looking at us as we haven't, if we have not got there, or there are systems that are foreign to us.
Oh, yeah.
that are being, you need to have this for us to fund you.
I was even thinking back to the beginning of this conversation, culturally, because I think the one big one that was a pushback was the whole LGBTQ agenda.
Yeah.
And African leaders, African nations stood up and said, "This is not our way. This is not our way."
Yeah.
So it's disintegrating the initial, what would you say, cultural composition of these countries that were formed by boundary lines of
exactly. And you see,
there's such an ironicness to that.
I know.
It
is crazy.
That's messed up.
Yeah, but as you just said, that's, you see what people are saying. Like, if you look at it, why would you impose? And then the whenever they impose that, it's either or. Either you have this, or I don't know, you starve, or you don't get any funding. We cannot be involved with you. And what most African leaders were like, I can be able to manage my affairs with accordance to how my society is. Yes, because even if we go, but now the Chinese are coming to you, and they have a way of looking at it, that these are needs that you do have. We can directly fund these needs, and we do not have to have this imposed things imposed on you, that like you need to have a system that resembles the Chinese system. You need to have a system that resembles the West system. Our system is the best.
Do you think here's a little pushback, pushback for you, because we always have to have a little some there.
Okay, all right.
Do you think it's a strategic decision on China, or do you think it's something innate? And by that I mean, is it that they see the strategy that the West is doing, and they play the counter strategy because it's going to work?
Yeah.
Because the people at the people on the ground that you're trying to lend to will say, "Man, forget this. I don't want this.
Yeah.
I'll go with this option that's already there." So is it strategically placed there as, hey, we're going to play this role of, you don't have to adapt to our culture, you don't have to adapt to all these other ABCD, we'll just do a business transaction. But if it was switched around, they will still try to impose their culture.
Yeah.
If they were the actually domineering empire.
Yeah, I think in my view, it's not it is. I think most of what we see is the Chinese foreign policy in regards to these issues. This is something that they have looked at. Of course, they're also an empire. They are a growing empire. That is, you know, they will be the dominant.
They've built their first blue, what do they call it?
Yeah.
Blue ship, blue ocean
Blue
navy.
ocean, yeah.
Like now they're expanding past their borders militarily
exactly.
too, which they were not doing before.
Yeah, as with all empires, you know, empires rise and and fall, and we are seeing the rise of that. But what they did in a way, they looked because they also want to grow, which we can't blame them. That is just a natural progression of how societies and empires grow. That is fine. But what they did, they looked at it and then they said that we do not want to come and impose our way. We are comfortable in being our way. Let you be comfortable in being how you are. But let's look at areas where we can build each other up. Yes, I may not have these critical minerals and resources. You may have them. You may not have this. Let's take care of that. Because once you start meddling in the internal affairs of a nation, and most people are going to pull back and be like, well.
But if is that statement only true until your special interests in that nation are being affected? So let's say China has invested, and I think there was a case in Zambia. They had invested in the mines. Was it copper mines or some sort of mines there? And then the political sentiment on the local ground started shifting. Yeah. And you still have to protect your interest as an international, as a exterior company.
Yeah.
So do you think that sentiment changes once your special interests are being affected?
Yes, it definitely will. So for every time that different nations are interacting with each other, there is always, everybody has to look for their best interest.
Oh yeah.
So it's usually, I'm looking for my best interest. I'm looking for my best interest. You can't blame people. You have to be pragmatic about it and look at
Always.
it just as such. You have to be like
real politic.
Exactly. You have to look at it, take out the the emotion out of it, take everything out. Just be logical about it. Now, what we have in especially in our case is that we are coming from a system of where the rules that are in place are very much not in our favor, because we are very low in the power scale balance. So now you're dealing with a very powerful and high scale. So the way they are going to navigate with these issues is on a more knowledgeable and more strategic level. So what needs to happen is, on our end, we need to start having this mentality that, hey, you know what, this is also our strategic leverage. That is why I've always talked, and I've always said that we need a one Africa. Because if we have, or even if it's not a one Africa, let's go back to our blocks. I know some of them are not working too well. AES, the ECOWAS, they're having issues there. But I'm saying, if we start looking at things from blocks, and then blocks, those regional blocks can look at, okay, let's look at this regional block. What are our resources? Those are very critical. And this is what most of these other nations are desiring. So now if we come up together as our block, we can be like, okay, so here is the groundwork. These are our resources. As you, Zambia, as you, South Africa, as you, Zimbabwe. If we come together and knowing that these are our interests, then we can be able to, as together as a block, we can go to these bigger powers like China and all, and we can be like, hey, you know what? This is how we are gonna interact when it comes to these key issues. Because if we do not engage on that level, then we are going to end up with the short hand of the stick.
That's true. And I like the point that you're bringing about the blocks, because I remember one of the key statistics was intra-continental
trading. Yes.
Africa is at 5%.
Yes.
It's so low.
So low, yeah.
So it's not even trade, let alone trade with other nations outside the content. Just within the content itself.
Yeah.
If such regional economic alliances are actually put in place, and not put in place, but
Yeah.
fully working as
Yes.
intended, I think that can benefit a lot, man.
Exactly, and you know, just to add on to that, like this is so people can grasp how crazy it is. Dangote, you know, he's the richest man in Africa.
Yes,
so
Nigerian man. Mhm.
Nigerian man is the richest man in Africa. You know, big ups to him. He's doing big things. But he went to a conference and he was saying, why does he, as the richest man in Africa, has to have like about 34 or so permits and, you know, and all these other forms that he has to fill up in all these different nations so that he can engage with them, while else somebody from France or, you know, or Britain can just fly to any region in Africa, no problem, you know, visa free, can, you know, interact so seamlessly, yet the richest man in Africa does not have that, you know, that freedom of movement. So this is also like one of those issues that, you know, that comes up, especially in that. I just wanted to point that out so people can, you know, just to pick people's brain on where, you know, things that we need to be focused more on.
And as we close out, it ties back to kind of where we started.
Yes.
On, it seems like that's a vestige of colonialism,
Yes.
right? Like
Yeah.
worship of the foreign,
Yes.
rather than true identity
In us.
In us.
Yes, in what we have. Yes, and I know we just came all full circle, you know.
circle.
Full circle with everything, and I think it's more in a way of, you know, because we have been so, you know, it's been so fed to us that, oh, you know, that shining city on the hill, the West, and, you know, these systems. But if we always, if you look within, you have to first look within and grow from there. If you look at all these societies, you know, Europe and all these other powers and all that, before they even started going outwards or in other way, they had to find a way of where they can have an integration, and that is what helped, you know, because that is what helped them get them to, you know, a power position. So those are things that, you know, we need to kind of look into and, you know, just move from that direction.
Man, really, it's
Hey,
been an
my
awesome,
guy, yes.
awesome conversation.
I
man.
know, I appreciate you, and, you know, we're gonna be doing more of this.
Yes,
you know,
indeed.
we're gonna keep digging for wisdom.
Let's do it.
And yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah,
Hey,
I'm honored. I'm honored to be guest number 2.
Thank you for
And
coming on.
I appreciate you, my brother.
And I liked how you put it on. We're digging for wisdom and we're planting seeds.
Yes.
Amen to that, man.
Amen to that.
I appreciate you.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.